You guys have probably seen me talk about her on my Substack. On my Instagram, you are business coach Amy, which I lovingly call BCA, but Customs Guy calls you Amy Snook.
He does.
Welcome to Napkin Notes.
Thank you.
So Amy is my business coach. We meet every other week-ish. While we're supposed to be talking about business, and we do most of the time, there have been times where I have opened my laptop and just started crying before Amy and I even jump into our conversations. So if there's a tear today, it would not surprise me. But Amy lives in Portugal, at least for now. And so we're in Austin, Texas right now. And the first time we met was also in Austin a couple months back. We all got together, and by saying all, Amy has a bunch of Austin business girly clients, and that was so fun for us all to get together. I feel like on Napkin Notes right now, there is a run of your clients that are coming on as guests. We have Megan Beauty, we have Ashley Photography. Olivia just made her second debut. And the reason that I wanted to bring that up is that I think that just shows the diverse, amazing women that you are working with right now. So I would love to know right now in Business Coach Amy's life, what does like a typical day kind of look like? And then we'll run it back to exactly how you got here.
Good question. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So a typical day looks like, to your point, I have a lot of different clients that I work with, and they're all women. And they're all...
Was that intentional or it just sort of happened?
It just sort of happened. But I mean, I think it's because women refer other women, and we have a much stronger sort of community and camaraderie where it's like, I want to help out a fellow creative woman in business.
Yep.
And so I think it happens naturally. But I have all female creative entrepreneurs, is what I call them. And I am based in Portugal. Everyone is based in the United States, a lot of people in Austin. And so my day looks probably a little different from most. I mean, typically I wake up around 7 or 8 or so, have sort of a slow morning.
You're not an early morning girly.
I used to be. Like, I thought I was, but it's because I was a New York person. So I was like, okay, well, I have to be at work at like 8:30. I'm going to wake up at 5. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do all these things, like live a whole life and then go to work. And then I don't know how I had the energy, but
I would have guessed that you were still that person, but I also used to be that person, and now I am no longer. So
well, it's just hard. I can't sustain the energy throughout the day. You know, I'm like, okay, if I have a bunch of calls and meetings in the later part of the day, then I've got to like take a slow morning. So slow-ish morning. Yeah. I have 2 dogs at home and a husband, and we do a lot of all 4 of us do walks or I don't know, something around where we live. It's just south of Lisbon. And then I do a lot of like deep creative work and some writing. I have a Substack, and I do a lot of writing and research and that sort of thing in the morning. And then around 2:00, the United States starts waking up, getting to work. And honestly, most days I have back-to-back coaching calls. I have almost 30 clients across, they're all creative entrepreneurs and some content creators across a lot of different industries. Super interesting. I basically get to like have a little glimpse into a bunch of different types of worlds every day. And so I do my coaching calls. They're an hour each. And then the second I get done, Adam, my husband, he's always asking me, okay, when's your last call? I'm like, we're done at 7 tonight. He's like, okay. And at 7:01, I hear, babe, dinner's ready, and dinner's on the table. So
there have been times where I think we were like going long or something, and you were like, my husband's making dinner. And then I will see on Instagram very shortly after, you guys will be like sitting outside having a beautiful dinner together.
Exactly. He's amazing at that. Like the second I'm done, dinner's ready, we're good to go. So yeah, I mean, my work day is basically 2 to 7, 2 to 8 p.m.
Okay. Is he always that timely, your husband? Or just when it comes to food and dinner?
Just when it comes to me. Like I am very much early is on time is late is like don't talk to me sort of thing. So and I think he gets that. Like I think he has an element of that, but he turns it up a notch when it comes to me.
So we have been talking. So Amy and I just kind of crashed her date night the other night at Day Nada. If anybody comes to Austin, Texas, absolutely go to Day Nada for a margarita or 2. Take home the pretty pink cup that they bring you to. But we were realizing that you're very similar to my mom. You guys have a lot of similar mannerisms, and left-handed, creative, dancer, don't really love to eat super healthy, but she is also like the most on-time girl that you can think of. My dad is very much not. I also am very much not, but this makes a lot of sense why you and I get along so well. Yes. You guys have a lot of those same characteristics, and that makes me feel very safe.
Aw.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have is it a master's degree in mental health counseling? Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't think I knew that before you got here on this last trip during our Day Not a Marg hang. But a couple questions there. One, do you think that people would have expected you to take that route, knowing you growing up? And then two, so now you're in I almost said Lisbon. Lisbon is what we do our hosting platform on for our podcast. But where were you before that? So you can take the question any way that you want to with those two things, but tell me where you were before this, and then like, was it expected for others around you and for yourself to like get into mental health?
You know, I'll start with the mental health question. I don't think so. Like, I don't think initially, I think there were signs. So like my parents always like to talk about how apparently when I was in preschool, they went and they asked the teacher like, oh, how is she doing? You know, I was like 3 or 4 and we're very young. And the teacher was like, you know, Amy's interesting. She doesn't like immediately go into the mix and like hang out with all the kids. She hangs back and she likes to sort of watch how everybody engages and interacts and behaves. And then like, once she feels like she has a good understanding of who the people are, then she can go in and like play with them in a way that makes sense.
Wow.
And I'm like, I still do that. That is like very much how I operate. And it's like the thing that brings me the most joy is getting to know people and understanding like what motivates them and like what excites them, and also being able to help them. And so I think people who have interacted with me in other careers, so I've done a lot of different things, as you know, which I'm sure we'll get into, but I've been more in the startup world, and I've people would call me super ambitious. I think they would call me like a little bit, not work obsessed, but definitely, you know, like
driven,
very,
focused.
very driven, focused, whatever. I don't think anyone would have been like, oh yeah, great therapist. You know, I think when I tell people, they're like, I could see it, that makes sense. But I also think it's like something I've sort of like softened into. And it's also because I had so many amazing different types of therapists, like all sorts of different modalities and coming from different sort of, I don't know, theories and practices. And so I was like, this is so cool that there's so many different ways to help someone. Like, I want to learn more about how to do that professionally.
Interesting. Because it's actually funny. I had this thought the other day. So I have been with my counselor for probably the last 5 or 6 years. Her name is Laura. She was also on the show. I have a life coach. She's now more like with her other clients, more of an executive coach, and her name is Deb. And then obviously I work with you. And I was like, if I could get those 3 in the same conversation in the same room, this would be amazing. But it makes so much more sense now, like with your background, with your mental health education. Deb has her PhD, I think, in neuroscience. And then Laura is certified in, she's going to be mad at me for not knowing this. It's something about reparenting. We've gone through EMDR, but it's a really good mix of like head knowledge of, you know, how to assess the situation, but also leading with empathy, which in my opinion cannot be replicated by other things.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's interesting is like, so therapy, I didn't want to go down that path for a few reasons. One of which is that we won't get into this, but the way that insurance works in the American healthcare system and everything else, and how it's just really difficult for people to get access to the care that they need. And and I also, it just like, it didn't feel right to be just like a therapist. I felt like that wasn't the right path. Then I started thinking about business coaching, and I had been doing it for a while before, but I was thinking like, I love HR and culture. I love people and teams. I love leading teams. I love managing people. I love coaching. I have the mental health background now. And like, as much as people don't want to think of business coaching as something that's related to mental health or emotional, like it is, especially with women. Like, so much of our identity can be tied up with what we do. And there's a lot of sort of things that we have to overcome, whether it's as an entrepreneur or in a boardroom or in a middle management position. And so like, emotions are inherently wrapped up. So I think that training from a mental health perspective has like deepened what I do on the business coach side. But I would never lead with that. Like, you know, we had an intro call and conversation. I didn't mention it because it's not what you want to hire me for.
Right.
But it is really helpful once we start working together to
when
have
I'm
that
crying
background.
on the calls is what she's trying to very graciously
There's just
say.
a lot of emotions being processed, crying or not, like happy or sad or anything in between, you know?
Yeah. Okay. And so you obviously live overseas now, but where did you grow up and where did you go to school?
So I lived in North Carolina until I was 10. And there's a funny story about why we moved to LA, which I'm happy to tell you.
Oh, I'd love to hear. Yeah.
So I have a half sister, but she's 15 years older than me. So we never lived together. So for all intents and purposes, I grew up an only child.
Yeah.
And
I forget that about you too. I would never pick up on that.
Really?
Actually, one of my close friends in Nashville, also an only child, obviously she has a background in mental health, but she's a counselor, a therapist.
Oh, interesting.
But I think it's always interesting when only children go into a field where they're the ones asking a lot of the questions, because I feel like that's just like really flipping the stereotype of an only child syndrome.
Well, only children have to learn to speak to adults before they learn to speak to peers, because you are around adults. It's your parents bringing you to the stuff that they're doing. So you have to hang out with your friends. You have to learn how to like get along in those environments. So I was always way more comfortable with people older than me and adults than I was with my peers. But anyways, so I was 10. I was living in North Carolina. I mean, I was in like, it was like on a gravel road. I was in Chapel Hill, but we were in like the back roads part. Everyone thinks it's pretty. I was so bored, and I decided I had a million different interests. One of them was acting. Like every kid, right? I'd be like, I'm going to put on a show like with my dolls because I have no siblings. And so I'd like put on performances. And then one day my parents went out on like a Saturday morning or something to run an errand, and they left me at home, and I was 9. And I heard this radio advertisement for acting school in Raleigh. And so I called the acting school, and I was like, I'd like to enroll myself in acting lessons. And they were like, I'm sure they could tell I was like 9. Yes. And they were like, okie dokie, it's like Saturdays at this time. And so my parents come home, and I say, I'm going to acting class. You're taking me now. Like, I've signed myself up. And they were like, whatever. Okay. So they start taking me to acting class. And then in acting class, there's this opportunity to go to New York through this big like competition where you go and you read. It's not necessarily a competition, I guess, but you go and you read in front of like casting directors, agents, managers, whatever. I was like, New York, that's the dream. I want to go to New York. So I signed myself up for this, and I come home and I'm like, Mom, Dad, like, let's go to New York. I want to do this. And they're like, no way. Like, we're not going to go to New York. Why would you go and read in front of like casting directors and stuff? And I was like, come on, please. Like, I want to see the city. I really want to go. Yeah. And so I don't know like why they said yes, but like they did. So they took me to New York. This was in the summer. I think it was like June or July. And I read in front of all these people, and like several of them wanted to sign me and bring me on as like a child actress. And I was like, finally, like the big break I've been looking for, that I've been waiting 9 years for. And so I was like, this would be amazing. And I was living in North Carolina, which at the time Dawson's Creek was filming there, and everyone was like, oh, Wilmington's the Hollywood of the East Coast. And so I thought I could act and live in North Carolina. But all of these agents and managers were like, no, we want to sign you, but you have to be in Los Angeles. And so I was like, let me work on this. So I'm like, Mom, Dad, can we move? And they were like, nope. Like my dad hated LA. 10, yes. But my dad hated LA. My mom had never been. They had a whole life in North Carolina. My dad had started a business with his brother, a bicycle business, and my mom was a special ed teacher.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, how can I convince them? So I thought of all the reasons why they would tell me no. We had just gotten a computer and like a PowerPoint-esque sort of program. So I made like a slide deck for them. And I was like, I basically was like, here's my pitch for you to move across the country to support me in my acting goals. And I was basically like, Dad, you started your company. So like, obviously you can move. Yeah. And I was like, Mom, you're a special ed teacher. I've called some of the schools in Los Angeles to see if they like need special ed teachers. And they do. So like, you'd have a job too. So what, like, why wouldn't we go? And I honestly cannot really understand why they ultimately said yes. Like they said no several times before they said yes. But then in August, like my dad and I were driving across the country. We were going to do a trial. So we rented this like little apartment, had rental furniture. My mom kept the house and the dogs back in North Carolina. We went to go see what it was like. And then 4 months later, my mom sold the house in North Carolina, and we bought a house in LA, and I got to like start pursuing my dream of becoming a child actress. So I was a 10-year-old that moved my parents across the country. So I lived in LA, and I did that.
Wow. Did you get some gigs after that? How'd it go?
Okay.
Yeah. Commercials pay.
That's
awesome.
The thing. They pay a lot. And like the residuals that you would get, I mean, I was like 13 getting like thousands of dollars. So like I bought my first car. I have all this stuff through acting money. But then when I was living there, well, there's some interesting lessons from having done that. Like you learn that you're not special because you walk into a casting room and there's 250 other kids who look just like you. And I had red hair and freckles, so I wasn't that common of a look, but like there's a lot of them.
Are you a natural redhead?
Mm-hmm. Auburn. Okay. And then you learn rejection. Like you go to a million of these and most of them turn you down. Age, yeah. And so like I think those were skills that helped me ultimately. But at a certain point, I think I was like 14 or 15, I looked around and I was like, oh, everyone in LA wants to be an actor or actress, and nobody is. Like the percentage of famous people to people who are trying is very small. So I don't want an unstable career for the rest of my life. So I dropped acting at that point.
Another normal 14-year-old thought. At 10, she's like, I'm moving across the country. At 14, I'm retiring.
Exactly. And I was like, well, I'm focusing on school. So it's all AP classes, all school, like gonna just do that. And I ended up applying to Duke. My parents were shocked about that. Like I thought I was going to go to Princeton, and that was sort of like where I wanted to go, or Yale, like Rory Gilmore, who didn't want to be her.
Right.
You know? Yes. So, but I ended up applying to Duke, got in, and went to Duke, was there for 4 years, majored in Arabic and international studies, and then left for New York, lived there for 9 years, then a stint in Amsterdam, back to LA for a couple of years in Portugal.
Okay. And so where did you get your master's?
That was online during COVID through Northwestern.
Got it. Okay. There's so much to unpack here because one, did I ever tell you that I went to acting school?
No.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
A little bit older than you. So I'm probably like not quite as like focused and driven. Like I'll get an idea and I think about it for about a year and then I'll think about acting on it. But I was a senior, I think in high school, also heard a radio ad. And then I went to like a random audition. Now I did not necessarily want to be an actress. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. I loved sports. I could remember statistics.
I could totally see you doing that.
And so I like randomly went. My mom took me. And what I didn't realize then was like they were kind of like assessing you from the moment that you walked in. And they kind of gave you like the little whole spiel. And then they were like, hey, here's a script. You have 3 minutes to read it. Come into the back. And then basically we'll choose like 3 of you. So it was just like an open casting call for this. I have kind of a photographic memory. So I just looked at it and I was like, I'm ready. So I was the first one in to record it. They, invited me into the school. My dad initially was like, no, this doesn't make any sense. You're not driving to DC once a week with your mother on Thursdays. We'd have to take you to school early to do all of these things. He had a brother. He has since passed, but that was always kind of like Randy's legacy was Randy called my dad's brother, and was like, what do you have to lose? Like, you will always look back on this time and like wonder what if. So my dad changed his mind. They paid for acting classes for me for about a year. Similar to you, I got to be 17, 18. They were like, we think that she can make it. I think that you guys absolutely have to move out to California. That's when both of my parents were like, no, you're going to college. Like, again, like the percentage of people that actually make it. So I look back on that time of, again, a couple of things that it taught me was one, there was a lot of improv involved. And so I think that's a large reason why I can have conversations with pretty much anybody was because I had to do it on stages with people and we had no idea where the conversation was going to go next. It taught me a lot about storytelling, but it also was like, you did have to put yourself out there each and every week in front of other people. Like, I feel like I always have had this internal confidence that I can do it, but there's always like a quick piece of hesitation before I actually go out there. And it sort of lessened that because you don't really get to sit on the sidelines when there's only like 5 or 6 of you guys in this room with an acting coach telling you to go up and do your thing. And so I do think too, when I first started my business, initially it was just a skill set of copywriting before it was even podcasting, but I would always kind of like get into, it felt like character when I would have to write for other people's brands and personalities. And I feel like I drew a lot from my acting lessons back in the day before I did any copywriting. And so that's just actually really funny that you had a similar story about 10 years before I went down that path, but I learned a lot from my acting classes and took 1 or 2 in college too.
Yeah, I do. I think you learn a lot from the class, but also from like the experience of trying that. That's like a very strange profession. I look at it now, I watch movies and TV shows and I'm like, like, not good thing I didn't do it, but like, I'm clearly not built for that. Like that, it's not me. So I ended up in the right place, but like strange profession, but it teaches you really interesting things. Like the improv is a great point. I think when you're in acting class and you're workshopping scenes, you're performing in front of a bunch of other people and the acting coach is telling you this isn't good, this is terrible, you didn't show any emotion here, actually listen. So you're used to getting feedback in front of your peers, but in a way that's like making you better.
Helpful, and constructive.
Right. And in
still
a business
embarrassing,
sense, like,
but better.
Yeah, but it's like, it's just, everyone's getting that feedback. So it's not like you're the only one being singled out. And it's like, it's constructive. And so, you do the same thing in like writing workshops. They like tear apart your work, but to help make it better. And it, like, I think for a lot of people that thought is terrifying, but if you've been through stuff like this, you're just like, no big deal. Yeah.
Just another Thursday.
Exactly.
Rockville, Maryland, I think was where we always had those, but shout out to my mom for also driving me every week. Took me out of high school early, on Thursday afternoons and we would drive up there. Tell me what that did for the family unit for you guys. Like when you guys moved out there, were you guys like a pack of 3 then? Like, I feel like that's a big thing to move from North Carolina out to California at such a young age.
That's true. I mean, I think so. You know, it was interesting because my mom, both my parents worked, but my mom had to be in school because she was a teacher. Yeah. Whereas my dad, I mean, he was probably like remote worker number one. Like the business that he and his brother started was in North Carolina, but obviously given the internet, he could do a lot of his calls and everything else from California. But he was the one who was always pulling me out of school, taking me to auditions. Like, I mean, he was there for everything. Like, he was the person. And like, we obviously, I mean, we're very similar, he and I. And so our bond got even closer. Like, and I think that gave me, again, a different experience of like, it's my dad who's like driving me around, helping me do all of this stuff, like supporting me in this. I'm obviously my mom did too, but she just couldn't get away.
Different time.
And the three of us had a family tradition, which I liked of, remember the Zagat guides, like the restaurant guides, Zagat.
Okay.
And
yes. I'm like seeing the branding
little,
now.
Like thin maroon books.
Yes.
So we had the Zagat guide in LA, and every single week, every Saturday night, which I think back on this now, I'm like, I guess I was a loser if I was doing this every Saturday night, but it started in middle school. We would each get to take turns picking a restaurant that we would go to, and nobody could say no. So like every single, like, you know, every third week or whatever, it was my turn to pick a restaurant. We drove all over LA to like experience all these different places, which was super cool. So I think that was something that brought us together, and none of the rest of our family was there. Like, it was my dad's brothers were, one was in Colorado, one was in North Carolina. Both my mom's sisters were on the East Coast. I don't have any, I have my half sister, she was in North Carolina. So it was sort of all alone out there.
Yeah. I have so many questions about like how you make decisions, since you at 3 were like observing before you would jump in, or like by 10 moving your family to the other side of the country. But that might unfold later in the conversation too. But I would love to know, after you graduated from Duke, what was your first job that entered you into like the field?
I liked my Duke experience. I was very disappointed by the fact that the majors were all very traditional. Yeah. So like, I mean, there wasn't even journalism, which is what I really wanted to do. Wow. That didn't exist. So
I'm surprised by that.
Maybe they have it now, but I mean, like, it was like, you know, it was econ, and Duke is huge for medical stuff, engineering, whatever. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people were pre-med and sciences, not me. So anyways, I majored in international studies in Arabic because I loved learning languages. The only thing that you can really do is work for the CIA or the FBI or maybe like an oil company. But the CIA did recruit from Duke because it was one of like 3 universities in the country at that point that had an Arabic program. And this was like the height of Al-Qaeda terrorism. So like, it was a big...
Did you watch Alias with Jennifer Garner growing up?
No, I didn't, but like I wanted to.
It might be worth a rewatch now, and like if you and Adam need something, but I always wanted to be Jennifer Garner growing up.
Well, then I obviously didn't go down that path, despite what my family members think about me sometimes. But Homeland with Claire Danes, I was like, that could have been me. But anyways, so I didn't do that, and I was lucky that a lot of companies come to recruit at Duke, but again, they're like investment banks and consulting firms, and I'm like, wow. Like, I couldn't be more bored. So there was one company, it was a pharmaceutical company. I was somewhat interested in healthcare because my mom had a big health issue that I thought I wanted to be a doctor because it fascinated me, but it didn't. But I was interested in healthcare. So a pharma company recruited at Duke, and I went through the interview process, got the job in like October of my senior year. So I was set, you know, and it was a sort of rotational program. So a year spent in market research, a year in marketing, and then a year in supply chain.
Okay, cool.
It was fascinating. It was like going to business school, basically, like right out of college.
Yeah. It does almost sound like one of those like rotations that you go to for med school.
Exactly.
Just going through all of those different elements of it. Okay. So where did you go after that?
I was voicing my displeasure to one of my friends, my friend from preschool, my oldest friend.
Okay. And the one that you observed before you would interact with.
Exactly. Yes. And she was working for a tech PR firm in San Francisco, and I was in New York. And she was like, I love it. I have so much fun. The culture's amazing. These companies are fun to work with. Maybe there's like a job for you at the tiny office in New York. And I was like, sure. So she puts me in touch with her HR person for the agency. And I'll never forget, like, sitting in my car at the pharma company, like taking this like HR screening call. And the woman was like, so do you like tech? And I was like, sure. Like, I didn't like tech. I was like, yeah, sure. And she's like, so like, what tech companies do you follow? And I was like, Google and Facebook. Like literally could not have been any more generic. But
that was still quick on your feet. I think I would have just like gone completely blank
and been like, the computer. I love the computer. The internet's a really good one.
AOL.
Yeah, email's pretty cool. But I got hired there to come in and like launch and scale a lot of the companies that were like crowdfunded. That was such a big thing at the time. This was in like 2013, maybe. So like Tile, you know Tile, but they started as a crowdfunded campaign.
Yeah.
Like that was us. We launched them and a bunch of companies like that. So I did that for like 3 years, maybe, after the pharma company.
Wow. Okay. So you did that still in New York though?
Yep.
Okay. And then, so tech startups, now that we knew what tech was and we had a following of that. And then what did you do after that?
Well, at that point, so I really liked it. I worked my way up in the agency. It was a super fun place to be in, good culture, amazing clients, but I wanted to know what it was like to work in-house. And so I can't remember how I got sort of recruited, but somebody told me about an opportunity at the company SeatGeek, the ticketing company.
Yeah.
So I went to interview there. They had a head of communications role open. And so I interviewed and I was like, full disclosure, I don't care about sports. Like, and it seems like this is primarily for sports. And they were like, no, part of the reason we like you is because we're trying to broaden our like presence in theater and concerts and all of these things. So I got hired as head of comms. I was there for barely a year when actually one of the girls who worked there, she used to be Anna Wintour's assistant at Vogue.
Ooh.
And she was still in touch
Anne
with
Hathaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. She was still in touch with the Condé Nast girls, and one of them was like Emily Weiss at Glossier from Into the Gloss, like brand new Glossier, is looking for a head of comms. It's like a really different sort of role. Do you know anyone? And so she's like, Amy, I feel like you would like this. And so then rest is history. Then I had a really interesting interview process and ended up working at Glossier.
I want to ask you about the Glossier interview process, but we do have a bottle of wine here that Amy's husband, Adam, what would you say his title is? Wine, PR, marketing, Portugal, 250 varietals.
Yeah,
I'm just like saying things.
You picked up on it.
That. Yeah.
He is, he's a wine marketer, sort of expert, trying to disrupt the elitism present in the wine industry.
Yes, make it more approachable. So if you guys are watching, we'll put this on YouTube as well. But this has actually been a really delightful wine that he picked up for us. It's a Spanish wine. And apparently he said it was earthy and plummy. I asked him, like, well, what words should I use to describe it? But if you guys are watching on YouTube, that's what we have today. So if you want to sip and follow along, that will be on the show notes and on the YouTubes as well.
It's delicious.
What were you saying, though, about that interesting Glossier interview process?
Oh, it was... So like I came into the office and this was, I think there were maybe 13 people that worked there at the time. This was like the very beginning of the company. I had not heard of it. My best friend and college roommate and still to this day best friend, Bessie, had followed Emily Weiss and Into the Gloss for a long time. She was very into beauty and she was obsessed with her. And she was like, take the interview, go, see what it's about. My first interview was with Emily. And so she had just had an interesting situation where it was like, this was probably 2014, I guess. And there was something around the Black Lives Matter movement that was happening. And
in 2014.
Emily, I can't remember specifically what it was, but Emily it was not intentional and it was not from a malicious place. It was from pure ignorance, had posted something that said all lives matter. And she got a lot of backlash because she's a public figure. And she was an influencer. So people,
I don't think I knew that.
Yes.
Okay.
People were not happy with that. And so I think this was like 2 days after that had happened. And I'm in this interview with her and she asks me, she's like, so how would you handle this situation? Like on the spot. And I'm like, oh gosh, but that's a fair question for a head of comms who would have to deal with some crisis stuff. So we had a really interesting conversation. We talked through all of that. And then she brought in her head of marketing at the time, Allie Weiss, and not related. And I interviewed with Allie. And then Emily popped her head in like halfway through the interview. She's like, hey, are you doing anything tonight? This is like 5 p.m. end of the day. And I was like, I was, but I was like, nope.
Right now I'm absolutely free.
Totally free.
That is
wide
the right
open.
answer for a potential job. Yes.
Yes. And so then she's like, do you want to get drinks after this? And I was like, yeah, I do. Texting my like ex at the time. I was like, can't make dinner, like important interview. So I go to drinks with Emily and we sat at Cafe Select in New York, which was sort of near the office at the time. Great little intimate, cozy spot. Feels like you're sort of in France. We were eating, having a glass of wine, and she's telling me her vision. And I was trained in like a very comms background of like, okay, editors run the show. And especially in tech PR, which is different from beauty. Tech PR, like they want embargoes. They don't want anyone stealing anything. Like you have to treat them like gods. And beauty editors are not quite the same. But either way, like you have a reverence for the editor because the editor controls the news and that's who you were trying to befriend. Emily was like, oh, so we're launching a product in a few months and we're not telling any beauty editors about it. In fact, we sent the product to 250 of our most engaged super fans on Instagram, and we've let them try the product for the last 3 weeks because it's a skincare thing that, you know, results show over time, and we're having them launch the product with us. And now, like, you see this, but in 2014, this was like,
well, I still feel like now people can still totally miss the boat. I'll use Alex Cooper as an example. When she was launching her podcast network, a lot of her followers and fans were like, you've left us behind. Mm-hmm. We don't feel a part of this at all anymore. And so I feel like people can still do that and totally miss the boat. Where in 2014, that's amazing that she had the foresight to be able to do that.
Well, she did, because she told me, she was like, women buy beauty products from other women. Like, I buy it because I saw it on your face and because I liked the way that it looked and you told me what it was, and I'm going to buy it. I am not buying it because I read an article in Allure. I'm not buying it because I saw a billboard. I'm not buying it because I saw an ad in a magazine. I'm buying it because a friend told me to buy it. And so if I have a friend who I'm following on Instagram who posts about a really amazing product that she's been trying, I'm going to buy that. But if I see some editor in InStyle writing a, you know, fluffy blurb about it, I'm probably not going to buy it.
Yeah, and just going to kind of skim over it.
Yeah, but that was like mind blowing to me. And I basically, at that moment, I was like, I am buying whatever this woman is selling. Like, I will do anything for her because I think she is thinking about things in a completely bold, refreshing, smart, like human first way. And so after that process, after that interview, I went home and I wrote the Fast Company article that I wanted to be the cover story for Glossier about Emily and Glossier. After I had been working as the head of comms for a year, I'm like, in 1 year, this is a cover story that I want written about you. And I wrote the article after, like, based on what I had heard in the interview, in, you know, our conversation, sent it to her. And then, like, I don't know, maybe we had a couple more conversations and I was hired. But it was like such a, like, moving is the wrong word, but it was such a, like, interesting experience.
I can imagine. And to have enough vision to be able to write that after just one meeting and one, like, drinks with her, I can see why you would want to attach yourself, hitch yourself to that cart or whatever that is, if you can see it that much after one conversation.
Exactly.
I feel like those moments don't happen often.
They really don't. Like, she is so good at what she does. Like, she is truly a brand visionary and super brilliant. And, like, that came through in an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it comes through with everybody that she meets. Like, there's a reason she's successful.
So was that your first entryway into beauty?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then how long were you at Glossier for?
I think about 4 years.
Okay, head of comms the whole time?
No, I was head of comms, and then that grew into a bigger role where at one point I was overseeing Into the Gloss editorial team, social, influencer marketing, partnerships, retail and offline, traditional comms. I'm probably missing a couple of things, but it was sort of like all organic marketing channels, more or less.
Wow.
So I was doing that. I always loved people and HR and team management, which is crazy because nobody likes HR, but I did. I thought it was really interesting, especially the way startups approach it. So I tried to pitch myself to become the head of HR because we didn't have one, and she kind of bought it, but the COO at the time didn't. Anyways, a few months after that, the COO at the time hired a chief of staff, and I was like, well, Emily needs a chief of staff. Like, she has an assistant, but a chief of staff is different. And Emily told me, she's like, if anyone would be my chief of staff, it would be you. And so the wheels started turning, and I was like, I had never considered this, but let me think about it. Again, a week later, I sat her down. I was like, here's what your life is going to look like with me as a chief of staff. And I wrote her this story, and I painted this picture, and I was like, you're doing this, you're making these decisions, I'm in these meetings, I'm doing this for you, I am you. I'm like doubling you and your output and your productivity, and I will act as you because I know you so well. I spend so much time with you.
Yes.
So I became her chief of staff, and then I did that for about a year and a half maybe. And then she finally, like, at the end of that, I spent a lot of time covering for a lack of head of HR. Did a lot of work on that team, worked with some consultants, learned a lot. So then I became head of talent, overseeing all the, like, employee experience, learning and development, recruiting, all of the sort of, like, what I think are more fun parts of HR, not necessarily like compensation and the legal parts. I got to oversee all of that. And then, that was it.
This might be too niche of a question, but during your time there, was there something that you saw that really bonded a team together? And then the opposite, is there something that, like, really disbanded people to not have as much loyalty to the brand while they were working there?
It's a good question. I mean, Glossier as the brand was like, it was drinking the Kool-Aid. I mean, like, not in a bad way, like, it was the brand that everyone wanted to be a part of. And so just the fact that, like, there were so few of us and we were all working in this place that everyone just like wanted to peel back the layers of and understand, like that bonded us together. I think the thing like that Emily did was she took a chance on people who didn't have a proven skill set. And so my team of women were like, they were all in their early 20s. They had never, like our social media manager, I think she was like 20 when they hired her, or 21.
Wow.
And Glossier was known for social. Like, so like she took a chance on all of us.
Cool.
And like we all had this spirit of like, we're lucky, we're excited, we're hungry, we're doing this together. That was pretty cool. I think the thing anything that sort of split us apart, you know, I think this happens in every company, but like at a certain point, a company gets to the stage where like they need to bring in experts. Like it was fun relying on the people who were creative and young, but like there's something to be said for hiring a head of UX who actually has like 15 years of experience designing websites and user experience journeys for
UX
people.
Is a hard person to just like
figure it out.
Through.
Yeah, you don't give like a designer a chance to be a head of UX at a company that has now raised hundreds of millions of dollars and has expectations for growth, right? So then we start bringing in experts, and there was like a real sort of like culture clash, which we talked about a lot. Like it's been talked about a lot at Glossier, but yeah, that was sort of like the tension is when we brought in people who like weren't like us. And I think some people felt threatened by them. Some people felt a little like, well, now the camaraderie's broken up. So that was probably it. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, I think that was the wrong way of looking at it. I was like, can't wait to learn from these experts and how cool we get to like see all these new people. And I thought it was great, but it definitely, not everyone felt that way.
Okay. But that does sound like you guys were able to have a loyalty initially with your team that would be like a really big learning for me as I continue to try to grow my team, is like, how can I make people feel really loyal to the business and to the brand and to the growth and to the vision. It sounds like just like her vision and how certain she was and where she was going. It sounds like she made it easy for people to want to follow because she made it easy to show where you were going.
Yes. And she was super present and she was so funny. Like she was like a very, like, I think she comes across as really put together, and she can be, and she is.
Yeah.
But like one day, I don't know if it was Halloween or if she just did this, but she wore like a hot dog outfit to the office. Like one day we launched
didn't take things too seriously.
Literally, like when she gave her all hands speech in it. Like,
oh wow.
One day we launched the Supers, which are this serum trio, and they were called the Supers, like a superhero. She came into the office wearing a pink cape, like Glossier pink cape, and like a pink little superhero mask. It was New York Fashion Week, which she was invited to because she was cool and got to go to the shows. She showed up to New York Fashion Week and sat there wearing her like pink super. So she doesn't take herself seriously. Like she was an easy leader to rally behind. Like you said, she was present for people. She made herself accessible. Like she wanted to know what was going on. Like it felt like she was working along with us, not like we were all just working for her.
Yeah. Okay. So you worked there for 4 years and then moved on to, I think you had like a couple other Poshmark.
After Glossier, I left because I wanted to sort of be at the phase of like building again. We had gotten to like a Series D, I think. The company was expanding and I really wanted to do something smaller. So I started consulting, took on a bunch of different clients, actually moved to Amsterdam for a brief
So when you left Glossier is when you started taking on like your first initial clients?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Cool.
I took on a lot of them. I did fractional work as like a fractional CMO, fractional head of people.
Okay.
Just did some comms consulting, sat on a couple of boards, did stuff like that. Very fun. And then House Beverage was a company. They were one of my first consulting clients, and I was sort of doing comms, marketing, and a little bit of like HR. But they were really young. I mean, they had like 4 or 5 people that were working there, and I thought it was an exciting category. I love the sort of like aperitif culture. And so they were like, "What's your dream job?" And so I told them, and they said, "You're hired." So then I worked there, and I became the COO at House Beverage.
Okay.
So I was there for a couple of years. That company does not, well, it kind of exists, but not in its original state. And then after that, I started my own company. So
tell me about making the leap from, were you full-time with House? Okay. So tell me about leaving that company and starting your own thing now full-time, what you're doing now. What did that transition look like? Was it scary? Did you already see the vision before you started? Kind of tell me about that time of life.
I had seen the vision a while ago. I had seen the vision when I was at Glossier. Like I knew what I wanted to do. I love books, love reading, wanted to work in publishing. All my friends who worked in publishing were like, do not work in publishing. So I didn't, but I decided to start my own publishing company.
Yes.
I knew I wanted to do it, but I just didn't feel like it was the right time. I didn't have enough experience. The thought of raising money terrified me. So it was finally like after I had done enough at House and I had seen way more of what it was like to build at that very early stage at that executive level, I felt like maybe I'm ready to do this. I can do it. So I left, decided to do it. It was like the most exciting time of my life. It was so much fun. It's like you get to design a brand from scratch. All of it's your decision. Like you get to use your own voice instead of speaking on behalf of somebody else. Like it was so fun. Started doing that. Around that time is when I also decided to move to Portugal because I had nothing tying me to LA. COVID was sort of done at that point and LA was going back to being LA. So I decided to move. And so that was like a really exciting time. It definitely wasn't scary. It got scary when I was like, okay, I'd raise a little bit of money. I'm spending the money and the money's not coming in because I'm not selling anything yet. And then it takes a while to ramp that up. And so then the realities of like what that actually looks like started to hit. But I don't think I've ever been scared in my life. Like, I don't think I've ever, like, someone asked me that, like, what are you afraid of? I was like, I don't think there's a single thing I'm afraid of or that and I don't say that to boast. It's more of like, I can't think of something I've been fearful of.
What's an emotion that you feel the most often? Because I would probably say fear.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel excited most. Like I feel like a kid in a candy shop, like that sort of feeling most often, or like really like driven and like excited.
Okay, interesting. So when you were leaving, you left House. Were you consulting while building the publishing brand, or you were just all in on building the publishing house?
No, I went all in for the most part. I was still doing a little bit of advisory stuff, but I went all in on building the publishing house.
Okay, cool. And then when did you switch over to business coaching?
I started doing that when I left Glossier. So like I had somebody asked me to start because at that point, if you had worked at Glossier, everyone wanted to work with you because they wanted to replicate what Glossier had done.
Okay.
So employees from there were sort of like hot commodities at the time. So somebody asked me to start coaching. I did. Loved it. Always kept it as something I was doing on the side. I always had at least like 5 clients, maybe like 5 to 7 at any given time.
Okay. I don't think I'd put that together.
Yeah. And it was all referral. I never talked about it. Like never marketed it. Didn't have a website for it. Nothing. It was just sort of like, if you wanted to work with me and you came from somebody else, we had a good meeting, we'll start working together.
Sure. Yeah.
So I started doing that after Glossier. I really started doing it more when I sort of was building the publishing company and was like, this is really hard. And it's actually not using the skill sets that I think I have. And it's maybe not for me, this exact sort of job in publishing. So I wanted to lean more into the coaching because that was like, if I reflected on my day and what brought me the most energy, it was always coaching. So then I think I put the word out to one of my authors actually, who lives in Austin. She is the one who told one of her friends, Alex, who lives here, who was at the dinner.
Alex, yes.
She does food PR for like all the coolest restaurants in Austin. So we started working together, and then she was the one who spread the word to a few other people, and then it just kept growing, and then it was like,
I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah, that's how that happened.
Okay, so and then what year was that ish?
That was like maybe, that was only like a year and a half ago.
Okay, cool. I don't think I realized that. I don't know, this is like not a great trait of mine. Whatever season of life I meet somebody in, that is what they have been forever. Like you have been married to Adam for forever. You have been business coaching forever. There was never Glossier. Like you can tell me all these things, but in my mind, you have always been BCA, business coach Amy, from now until eternity.
This is the problem with parents and children because you will never not be their child. They will forever see you in that season of life.
If I have children, this is actually a really good application.
Yes.
That would have been a huge blind spot. That's actually really funny. So I could ask you 18,000 more questions, but as we wrap up, are there a couple of things that you see women when they come to you? Like, what are their biggest obstacles when they're starting a business, and what are their biggest obstacles when they're growing? That if you could give advice to like people at either one of those phases.
I think you know one of the things I'm going to say, but I think like the biggest struggle women have, or any entrepreneur, but is like you sort of feel like you're going insane because you're by yourself. Like you're not with anybody else, and like your partner only wants to hear about your ideas so much. Your parents only want to hear about it. Your friends, like there comes a point at which you can't keep asking people for thoughts or advice or whatever.
Yes.
And you have to make a million decisions. And most people can't make them very quickly, which is natural. And so I think people get like really paralyzed, and you sort of sit in this room and you're like, do I do this? Do I do that? I just won't do anything. Or maybe I'll do all of it. Or then I'm overwhelmed, and then I'm upset, then I'm scared. And so you're navigating all of these things alone. And so I think one of the things that I try to help people with is this idea that like, just make the decision, like make any decision and move forward. And then if you don't like it, like make the decision, but think about how you're going to measure whether or not that was the right decision or a good decision for you. If you then realize very quickly that it wasn't serving whatever, need you had, make a different decision, but just keep making the decisions. Like, don't let the paralysis take over, because it only gets worse. Like, you get more claustrophobic when you let those thoughts in. And so I try to help people unblock themselves and just move forward and realize, like, the stakes aren't that high. Like, they're almost never that high.
I just put this on my Instagram, and I was like, this is what business coach Amy says: make the decision and then you can make it right. There's not usually a hard right or wrong decision. You make it and then you make it right later on if you have to. You can pivot, you can change, but like, make the decision and keep going.
Yes.
And it can be overwhelming when you're first starting, especially like when the vision is still sort of blurry, which I think I'm learning. Maybe that's why you don't feel fear as much as others, or as consistently. Is it sounds like having a vision for where you're going and where you're going to take the people around you is so clear that of course you're not necessarily fearful about it, because you already can see the end goal where you're going. Like moving to California when you were 10, writing the vision letter to Glossier after just like meeting with her for an hour. Like, I feel like you have such strong vision, and then you're so set towards it, like you're not fearful. You already see the end goal.
I hadn't thought about it like that. I think that there's an element of that that's true. And I think I've just like been through I haven't been through a ton of hardships compared to a lot of people, but I have lived life to the max, to the fullest. Like, I've gotten injured, I've gotten sick, I've had bad experiences at work, I've had really difficult friendship conversations, I've been engaged twice and called off 2 weddings.
I have asked all of the wrong questions. Apparently, Amy, will you come back on, please? Okay,
we'll do a separate one.
This will be more personal side of BCA. Okay.
But I'm fine. I'm good. Like, I'm better than I've ever been, and I've been through all of that. So it's this knowledge of like, you bounce back. So like, it's that, what's the worst that can happen? Or like, you can start a business, you can take on investors, they can suck, and you can buy them out. You can start a business, you can dislike it, you can close it down, and you don't have to look back. You can hire somebody, you can fire them. You can fire somebody, you can bring them back again. Like, nothing's final, really,
Yeah. And then what's probably the biggest thing when people are scaling that you see as the biggest obstacle that you would give advice on?
Hiring is super hard. I think scaling, knowing when to hire, knowing if they're part-time, full-time, what kind of employee they are, their actual like job description. A lot of the times people just feel overwhelmed, and so they think I should hire. And it's like, maybe, but is there a job there? And is there a job there in 6 months? And is there a job in 2 years for this person? And like answering those questions, being very thoughtful about that, I think is super important, because I think hiring the wrong people, I mean, again, it's a decision that can be reversed and fixed, but like, it's costly, and it does take a little bit of time. So, and it's hard if you don't interview people that often. I've probably interviewed like 1,000 people. So I know how to do it. But if you're an entrepreneur and you haven't done it as much, you have coffee with someone, you think they're great, you want to work with them, you hire them, and then you realize that they're not doing the job that you needed them to do. So I think hiring, building out a team, organizational design, understanding like what should be delegated, what you should keep doing. I think that's one of the hardest parts of scaling.
Okay. Amy put out the Substack not too long ago based off of a question that I don't know who could have submitted it to her about growing a team. But I'll put that in the show notes, because that was actually really helpful. I don't think I circled back on you, but with you on that. But like reading through it, I was like, oh, these are the things that like I have kind of missed over I know the last couple of years as we've grown a little bit with our team. So I'll put that in the show notes for people to just sort of reference. But are there like a couple questions in interviews that you would say like absolutely ask this? Like, do you have an interview guide? I feel like that's something I would snag from you.
Okay, so I have a scorecard system that I like, which is basically, if you are looking for a role, first of all, when you write the job description, write the 6-month expectations and the 12-month expectations. Don't write the responsibilities. I mean, you can, but like, what should this person know how to do or have already done at the end of 6 months, at the end of 12 months? Because that is way more important to know than 5 years of experience or like managing this, that, and the other. So tip number 1. Tip number 2, identify the core competencies that you want that person to have when you're hiring. So maybe they're a designer and they need to have amazing attention to detail, actual design experience, blah, blah, blah. Rank all of them, like weight them and say like, yes, it's important that they have design experience, but what's more important is that they're an amazing leader, because they have to lead a team of 10 designers. And so when you go and you interview people, you basically rank them 1 through 5 on each of these competencies at the end of the interview. Then you will see the weighted score, because putting the weights behind is important, because sometimes we're like, I love to work with them, but they're not actually skilled at what they do. So I think having that like rubric it sounds like really boring and probably over the top if you're just hiring one person, but it's important. And then the questions that I ask, one thing I like to ask somebody is, if I hired you today, what is like the first thing that you would be so excited to like put all of your energy behind and get to work on? Because I want to know like what they're passionate about, and I want to know that they've done the research and that they know like what this job entails. And I want to see that come out in that answer. Yeah. So I often ask that.
Yeah. I'm trying to like think of other like interview processes that I've either been on or that I've conducted. And I do try to ask like a certain level question of that, but then I think I'm like, I don't want to come across too harsh during this interview process. So I like kind of pull it back, but these are really good tips. Okay. I ask all of my guests this question, and we'll kind of circle back to maybe the beginning of the conversation, but I'm actually curious to know who you would choose. You talked a little about your mom and your dad and kind of like even your preschool teacher growing up. But if you were to leave a note on a napkin for someone, let's say here in Austin, Texas, or maybe as you leave Portugal, but just kind of had a little phrase or a saying of something that was important to you growing up. 1, who would that person be? And then 2, was there a phrase that they were known for?
I think, I mean, both of my parents, but I think my dad definitely was the one. I'm not sure that he fanned my passion necessarily, but he was the one who just very much believed in me no matter what, and was very like, look, if you want to do it and you can figure out a way to make money doing it, do it. Like my parents were very like, they were vegetarian growing up. I forgot my lunch at home in kindergarten. There was only a corn dog on the menu. My mom's like, eat it, see if you like it. I loved it. I wanted more. They said, we're not making it for you, but if you want to make yourself hot dogs, go for it. And so that was like very much their mentality. It's like, if you want to do this and you can make money and you can survive on your own, figure it out.
Go
like,
for it.
Totally fine.
Interesting.
So I don't know. I think it would be my dad. I don't know what he never had a mantra that was necessarily related to this conversation, but one thing that I always remember him saying that I take with me is, he's like, you only get one chance to make a good first impression. That's so good. Like, reduce all of the barriers to entry there. Like, smart. Look nice. Why not? Like, no, of course you shouldn't have to, and you don't need to, and it shouldn't matter, but like, people do judge you on that. So just like, that's an easy thing to do. Like, look nice when you show up to a job interview. Like, compliment somebody on this, or leave a thank you note. Like, make it easy, and like, the rest of it, you can't necessarily control your personality and if you vibe or whatever else, but the things you can control, like, you only have that one chance to make a first impression. So do that. Like, I
love that. I feel like that's unusual for a man to be that thoughtful and that forward thinking as well. He sounds really unique.
He is. My mom too. Like, it's hard to pick between the two.
Sure. Well, when you come back on, we'll have a phrase from your mom.
Yes.
Because I'm sure people are going to want a part 2 of BCA. Where can everybody find you?
You could find me on Instagram, Snooks, and then Substack. It's my sort of like hobby passion. It's Creative by Design is the Substack, and I have a website, Creative by Design, as well.
Awesome. Okay, everybody, you should absolutely be a part of our Substack. I love reading your emails. I go out once a week.
Yep.
There's a lot of good nuggets, and Amy is a fabulous writer. But Amy, thank you so much for being on Napkin Notes today. I'm going to have to come overseas next time. You've come over to Austin twice. Yes. I think it's time that I hop over the pond.
Please.
Cool. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, so nice. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.